So thanks everyone for tuning in for the next in the series. And this is a really interesting, really special one for us because we have the ambassadors of Envision from across the world joining us today to have a little chat about what accessibility means to them and what they see to be the future of accessibility. So let me just go ahead and pass on the mic.
Video. Or join with video.
Yeah. So let me just go ahead and pass on the mic to them. And with us, we have today Hasan Tayem from Jordan. We have Salih from Turkey, and then we have Ben from Germany. So why don't you all start off by introducing yourself? Over to you, Hasan, just about your background and what does accessibility, really mean to you?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, hello everyone, and it's an honor for me to be in here and to introduce myself to you guys. Firstly, I really would love to thank you, Karfik, to thank the team of Envision for inviting us to this Global Accessibility Day. It's really would be an honor for all of us to be in here. And yes, my name is Hasan Tayem. I am 22 years old. A Jordanian proficient, you could say proficient blind runner. I have recently graduated from the University of Jordan. I have studied Italian and English languages. Well, accessibility story, my accessibility story started since I have entered the of
Hasan, sorry,
very part of my life because it's really making the accessibility is life easier and access everywhere, wherever. So yes.
Okay, awesome. And over to you, Salih. Just a little bit about yourself. Where you come from, and also what does accessibility really mean to you?
Okay, greetings everyone. This is Salih Kunduz from Turkey. I'm 28 years old and currently working for the government. For me, accessibility is more than life itself, and accessibility for me is a hope. Because I believe that without accessibility, we wouldn't be here. Like once I was talking to a student and she was asking me, like, if there was no technology, if there were no such devices and stuff, what would you be doing? I was always asking this question to myself. So accessibility is the life for me. Like it's the freedom, it's the life, it's what empowers me for my personal and business lives. And apart from that, I do run a website where I write about accessibility and technology. And this is all about it. I really appreciate being here, and thank you so much for inviting me.
All right, awesome. Thank you so much, Saleh. And over to you, Ben. A little bit about yourself and what does accessibility really mean to you?
Okay, yeah, sure. I'm Ben from Germany. Thanks for having me. And yeah, as I'm blind from birth, accessibility is I'm into accessibility my whole life. So now I'm working for a big telecommunication company here in Germany, also in the software area. And accessibility does mean for me as a blind person to get access to information, for a person using a wheelchair, it might mean having access to places, but for me, it means having access to information, whatever this is. So the world is not designed accessible. So for me, it's very important to have such assistive devices, assistive technology, channels, generally speaking, because in my view, the world will not be totally accessible. So it's important to have such apps, such devices we're talking about today, and therefore,
That's really
so I'm sorry.
Yeah,
I'm
go
sorry.
ahead.
Yeah,
I have lost the connection. So I hope that you have heard what I was saying. So if
we heard you.
anything
Yeah.
that you, okay, fine.
Yeah, Hassan. I was able to get an idea of what you were saying, and in fact, something that Ben said really sort of reached out to me because we don't really expect the world around us itself to become more accessible. So hence, having accessible tools or building accessible tools to help people access the world on their own terms is something that we also really strongly believe at Envision. So I wonder, and another thing that really comes to my mind, when I look at this bunch, is it's a very global bunch. It's a group, it's a very global group of people here today from very different parts of the world. And the thing that I wanted to ask, you all is how important is inclusive design, or how important is accessibility, in the country that you come from, right? So, for example, with Hassan, I want to ask him to begin with, like, how important is accessibility, in Jordan, the country where you come from?
Well, in Jordan, to be honest, or in the in the Middle East itself, we are facing in a lack of accessibility awareness. We are facing in a society that's we really are facing a problem with the knowledge of the accessibility of the word itself. So you will find definitely like something is different than all over the world. Like we're, as I said, facing a lack. So recently in Jordan, when it comes to Jordan, recently they have started to implement very good things, which is really making our life more easier. So in Jordan, the accessibility is just begin. So I know that we're having a long way to pass. So I really hope that Jordanian friends, those who are listening to me, I hope that we should work together to implement that features more and more in Jordan and in the Middle East itself.
Okay, that's interesting. And for you, Salih, you said that you're working with the government in Turkey, and
Yeah.
I wanted to sort of understand from you, like, how important is accessibility in your country from a government's perspective, and also what are some of the things that you think could improve there, right?
Well, as a being a developing country as a Turkey, we're really trying to do a lot of things in terms of accessibility. Like over 15 years or 10 years, the government really trying their best to employ the blind or visually impaired people in government, or they also try to support the private sector to employ the visually impaired people and other disabled people. So accessibility is really playing a really good role, but still there are a lot of things to improve. Like we are really trying our best to raise some awareness inside the society. Like the people must know what is accessibility and what should be done. So first, the government tried to do to make the environment accessible. For that, like they work really a lot, and still they are doing their best. For example, the big cities are really doing their best. Uh, for example, when you go out, the streets should be accessible, so then you can go out and you can just explore your surroundings. So
Yeah.
this was the first step the government took, and then the technology, and then supporting the visually impaired people and for accessibility in terms of economical ways. And still, it's under development, and they're really doing really great, really good.
Okay, that's really interesting. And for you, Ben, like, you're coming from a totally different part of the world, and for you, how far do you see the importance of accessibility in Germany? Like, how do you really see accessibility in Germany, and what do you think can still be done to improve the state of affairs there?
Yeah. So when it comes to government, I think we are very good. So Germany, all governmental services or apps, websites have to be somehow accessible by law in Germany. So this is very good. But when it comes to private section, to companies, there can be a lot of improvements in accessibility, because companies are not forced to make their services and products and apps and so on accessible. So this can be improved, as in, yeah, for example, in the US, I think it is a law that products have to be somehow accessible to disabled people, and that's what we don't have in Germany here. But everything which comes from the government has to be accessible.
Yeah, that's something that you really interestingly raise, right? The way I think all of us see it, it's like it's definitely a collaboration between like the government and also individual private companies that are working on products itself. And I think there should be I would say like something like GUARD, or the Global Accessibility Day, really helps us to bring all parts of the society together to realize that accessibility is something that is not just the responsibility of the government, it's also the responsibility of everyone building products out there. So along those lines, I wanted to ask you all, like, what do you see to be the future of accessibility? How do you really envision the future of accessibility? So Hassan, you've been working with accessibility for a long time, and what do you really see as the sort of future of accessibility?
Well, when it comes to myself, I have started to work in the accessibility features in the disability field, like to spreading, telling people without disabilities about the people with disabilities. Since I have started university, I've started to do like a kind of motivation sessions to those people, telling them our needs, telling them this is our law, like this is what we really need in the law, not behind the laws. So the future, where I see the future exactly is seeing Arabian or people from the Middle East developing apps, developing like engineering, developing accessible roads for those who are with disabilities, like blind or wheelchair users. So I really admit those people, and I really appreciate any thoughts, anything that will come would come from those people. I really admit it, and I much appreciate it, and I always try to support them however and wherever I can.
Interesting. So for you, raising awareness is going to be a very key part of improving accessibility in the future, right?
Yes, raising awareness, spreading the words with our needs, with our voices, in a good and prospective way, for sure.
Okay. And the same question to you, Salih. Where do you really see accessibility going in the future?
Speaking about my country specifically, we again suffer from being a country that is under development. People getting like recognized about accessibility and what should be done to make things more accessible. In universities, in high schools, there are a lot of works are going on about accessibility, but the problem is they want to do something that we already have. For example, some students get together and want to do a talking computer. They spend hours and days and a month to do that, but they don't know there is a screen reader. So we just need to show them how to do it. And there are a lot of great potentials in Turkey. So this is the thing that we should do. Like blind and visually impaired people should be more active and need to show them what we need, and they will definitely do it because I know there's the potential. And last week in Turkey, there was the Accessibility Week, and today is the Global Accessibility Awareness Day. So it's a really great coincidence now.
Interesting. So for you, members of the community really like coming forward and speaking up about their experiences can actually.
Absolutely. There is a potential, like people really doing great inventions, but something like, for example, like talking computers, talking devices, we already have screen readers, so we don't need them. We just need your hands to do something better together.
Got it. Got it. Amazing. And from your perspective, Ben, you're someone who is a developer as well. You know, you work in the DevOps field. You're really someone who's very tech savvy. So I see that I can, see that you're a lot more clued into the developments that are happening in the accessibility space. Where do you see the future of accessibility going?
I think accessibility and also the devices or apps we see, it gets something for everyone. So for now, accessibility is still something which can't be afforded by everyone. We have a very good governmental system for it to get supported by the government when it comes to buying assistive devices and so on, but that's not the case in every country. So we are really benefiting from the system. But in the future, I think the accessibility is something gets more and more something for everyone, which everyone can afford, because devices and so on get cheaper, and we will definitely use technology more in the future. So we've seen this today. There are many great developers and great apps out there, like Be My Eyes and Envision, of course, one of the best tool out there for blind and partially sighted people. And this will go on. And we're seeing different accessibility, from big companies as well, from Google, from Microsoft, from Apple. It's getting more and more accessible, and yeah, that's it. I think we will definitely use technology more and more.
Oh, that's a really interesting point. You're talking about making accessibility itself a more accessible thing for everybody and democratizing that through technology, which is, like a really interesting question that has come to my mind when I was hearing all your answers, was that, today with this live stream, we're reaching hundreds of people across the world. And there are a lot of people in this group that I know of that are working in the accessibility space. They're all listening in to us talk about accessibility the whole day. And from each of y'all, if there's one thing that you would like to go ahead and give them as a piece of advice or a suggestion when they're building on the products that they're working. So they might not be necessarily working on accessibility products, but any product for that matter. What is the one piece of advice or suggestion that you would like to give these product developers?
So let's start with myself. I have actually two messages. One message is for the blind people who are listening to our voices, and the other message is for you guys, the developers. My message for my friend is, like, everyone has a chance. We should never ever like give up. We should stand, just for one time. We should stand with ourselves, trying to figure out what things that we can offer to helping these developers obtaining accessibility features that might improve our life or our situations, because I believe that technology will one day help the 285 people with visual impaired and partially blind and partially sighted. So yeah, we should go and show up our differences. And my message that I really would love to deliver it to the developers, to you, Karthik, to Thomas, to Will, to everyone who is implementing apps for us. I really would love to say, keep the great job up and keep doing this, keep acting like this, because we really need you. You are making our life accessible and easier. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Hassan. And to you, Salih, if there's one suggestion or request that you'd had for product developers to make things more accessible.
I want to follow my friend Hassan's speech in the same direction. I want to say first for our folks, we should really support the developers in and like monetizing ways, and also if we cannot afford their products, we should really give them good feedback. We should keep on sending feedback so that they can improve their products. And for developers, they really need to keep the consistency. Like, you know, this is what we need from the apps, from the services, from the products. Like, we don't want to just be living alone and uh, a product is going away, an app is going away just because the developer wants to stop working on it. We really need consistency, and I really hope they can work a lot of time till, I mean, uh, yeah, this is good. This the consistency is the key for that for the developers, and whoever needs as a developer help. There are a lot of resources on the internet, and also if the resources are not enough, there are a lot of blind people to test their products. So they should really stand out and raise their voices as well as the developers.
Yeah, I mean that's a really nice point
Mm-hmm.
that you raised, because there is a community out there that's very accessible for developers. I feel so. And yeah, just the same question over to you, Ben. Your advice or request, suggestion to product developers.
Maybe it's a good suggestion to design your products that they're really use and they can be used by everyone, and to involve many different people in your testing.
Got it. Got it. I think these are like really, interesting suggestions. The fact that there is a community online that's willing to work with you to make your products more accessible, and to also think about everybody when you're designing a product, be truly inclusive in the development stage. So we have a couple of, questions from the audience, and I'm just going to go ahead and then let you guys answer some of them.
Yes, sure.
So the first question is, so what is the situation in your countries with regards to accessibility in common life? That is, when you're using a ticket station, ticket machine at a train station, or when you're using an ATM, right? What are some of the, what's exactly the situation like when you're trying to do some things like an everyday task like these?
Well, as I mentioned before, in Jordan, the situation is a bit hard. Like when it comes to ATM, I have really worked very, very, very hard to take my own ATM, to open my own bank account. So the law in this field is like we have a law. I can admit that we have a law, but the law is not implemented at all.
Yeah.
Because our like blind community is not supported, is not supporting. Like if we would like to make a campaign or would like to make anything that will support our minds, they will definitely not support us, unfortunately.
Okay.
I mean the community itself. That's
Okay.
why I have mentioned that raising our voice is really important in our society.
Okay. And for you, Salih, like you said that things are sort of in between in Turkey at the moment, as things as you say that you're still a developing country in that matter.
Yeah.
What's the situation with regards to everyday things, like how easy is it, for example, for you to be able to withdraw money by yourself, or be able to go on a train journey by yourself?
Yeah,
Yeah.
So things are improving in a lot of aspects. If you want to withdraw money from your account, you can use the mobile banking app and just scan the code from the ATM. And some government banks, they also offer talking ATMs. Oh, this is really great for for people working with government banks. And for public transport inside major cities in Turkey is free for the disabled people, so they don't need to deal with cards and ticket stuff. And for other inquiries like plane tickets or train tickets, they can book tickets online. And yeah, things are improving in that case. And in terms of bank works, as Hassan said, we also have some problems and still needs to be sorted out. If you want to get a bank account as a disabled people, you sometimes need to show themselves. You can sign a paper. Like it's changing those days, but still sometimes you need to show them. It's not needed to sign a paper with 2 or 3 people with you, and you can just sign a paper by yourself. Things are,
You need to bring up your family.
yeah,
Oh,
yeah, they ask you something like that. But I mean, some banks do it, some still trying to follow that old trend, but some banks say, okay, you're an individual, so you can sign it. It really depends on your chance nowadays.
Yeah, yeah, I agree with you.
Mhm.
and Ben, like, can you talk a little bit about everyday accessibility in Germany?
Yeah. So, for example, when it comes to train tickets, there's an app which I can use to buy them. So that's quite easy, and the app is accessible. So it's really quite easy. When it comes to ATMs, I have the impression that ATMs are by far more accessible in Turkey than in Germany, because we don't have ATMs with QR codes which you can scan and then withdraw your money. You have to use either accessible ATMs, which are not so frequent, or you have to use some kind of apps which can read what's shown on the display, but then it might be difficult to handle the touch display. Or you have to go to the counter and withdraw your money there. When it comes to opening bank accounts, because this was the topic, it's of course it's possible to open a bank account in Germany for me as a blind person, and also this is also true for opening it online.
Okay.
Wow.
Yeah, I think it definitely helps as we continue to raise more awareness through events like the Global Accessibility Awareness Day, or by really voicing our opinions, like what Hassan is doing in Jordan, really like going out and trying to voice his opinions. We hope that in the future, with companies like us also trying to make accessibility more mainstream, governments and institutions which are usually slow to respond will look at accessibility in a more serious way. Interesting. So we do have like another question from Zachary from Morocco is asking us, how can people with a visual impairment learn about the different technologies or accessibility tools available for them, right? And where do you guys look to when you want to learn about the latest in accessibility technology and the tools, and where do you guys look to online?
Well, I'll try to answer as short as I can, and please, Karthik, excuse me to like mention some resources that I used to implement as a let's say as a student.
Mm-hmm.
I do use a website. It's called Applevis. We spell it AppleVis. So Applevis is a very friendly and accessible website. We use this website as a reference. Like we take the news from them. We take the latest apps that have been produced for the blind, because Applevis website is running like from the blind to the blind. Like there is no other like third party or something that's running this website. So this site is for us. We also have a blind help project. We take also news from them about accessibilities. Sometimes for myself, I do use the App Store itself or Google Play to search for certain apps, because nowadays they have Apple and Google, they have implemented something called keywords, so we can use these words to get any information, to get any app within the Google Play or the App Store. Sometimes Google itself, it's always helping us a lot when you search. Even in Arabic, we have many resources on Google. If you search for any products, any apps, they would be a very friendly people who were describing and demonstrating these apps. So
All right.
yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, just before we wrap up, quite quickly, Salih, and then starting with Salih, what is the, like I would say, what the one place that you go to get more information about this?
Well, basically, I use search engines and I listen to podcasts. I'm following some websites. I'm not gonna give the specific names about them, but I really have some websites that I watch often.
Awesome.
I'm a proud Android user, so I try to watch Android news from internet, from YouTube, and all sort of stuff. And there are a lot of great accessible contents coming our ways.
Okay, awesome. All right, so I think to just really wrap up, thank you so much, all of you all, for really joining us today from across the world, and we hope to really carry the baton of accessibility forward. And for everyone else listening, just a quick reminder that we are offering a discount on the purchase of the Google Glass, a 10% discount when you purchase it today. The code is GAAD10, and please stay tuned for the next session starting in about 10 minutes. We have some really interesting folks, Rene Espinoza from Lazarillo and Marco Trulio from Sunu Band, both interesting folks coming on to talk about their journey with accessibility. Thank you so much.
Envision AI empowers blind and low vision people to be independent by speaking out the visual world in front of them. It is a smartphone app that uses artificial intelligence to read all kinds of text from any surface.